Hey everybody, Lars here. Tonight is review video number 2 for unit number 1. Tonight we're going to review the second half of the slides, so that way you'll have your slides, your Zell readings, your review videos for both sides of the slide, so you should be pretty good and have the resources you're going to need to tackle the assignments, which I'm probably going to be releasing on the Sakai site tomorrow, and you'll get an announcement for that, so you have no worries about that. Tonight we were in the beautiful, luxurious cave, because I got done working and I figured, instead of going home, let me shoot my video here at the cave. That way, hopefully I can get done, get wrapped up around 8 o'clock, and ship right over to where I'm watching the basketball game with my friends, because NBA championship basketball does not watch itself. You have to do your part. And the Warriors are playing Cleveland tonight, so I'm going to see LeBron play Stephen Curry. All right, enough of that, though. Let's look at some code that I already whipped up for us. And basically, the reason I didn't whip up that much code. I just put in a bunch of comments. So up on top, and you're going to have this code in Sakai afterwards, you have the relational operators, because the first thing we're going to do is we are going to play around with some Boolean variables. I'm just going to show you the basics right off the bat. var1 and var2. You see that the true and the false are capital. You need to capitalize them, and you'll see that they're orange. Idle made them orange because they're keywords. And basically what I've done is I've assigned the variable a value of either true or false. And they're kind of like regular variables. You'll see I print var1, save it and run it, and you'll see over here it just says true. Okay, because I've assigned it true. Do the same thing over there and I get false. Now, the first thing people think when I show them something like this is, boy, that's really cool and that's wonderful. Why in the world would I care about something like that? And the reason you care about something like that, let me put this down here, is that you can use the relational operators and test conditions and get variables out of that. So I'm going to take a third variable, I'll call it var3, and I'll make var3 equal to, actually, you know what? Better yet, let me do this. num1 equals 10, num2 equals 20. So then I'll grab a third variable, variable3, and I'll say variable 3 equals num1 greater than num2. All right? And then I'll print var3. Now, when I do that, what am I going to get? I use the relational operator to compare those two numbers. Now, num1 is 10. Is that greater than 20? It is not. So that happens to be false, that particular condition. So the Boolean value false will be put in variable 3, and it should print false if the gods are with us. And it does. Okay? So you can see how we can now use these conditions with different variables to create Boolean variables and see whether certain conditions are true or false. Second level. You may be looking at that and say, wow, that's really wonderful. Why do I care about that too? This is why you care about it. You can create those conditions, get true or false values, and start making decisions based on that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to just comment it out for the time being. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say if. You see it's orange. If is a keyword. And I'm going to say if, and then I'm going to say num1 is less than num2, and then I'm going to hit colon, because what I want to do now is start a new block of code that's going to be run if that condition is true. And I'm simply going to put one line. I'm going to say, what do I want to say? I'm going to say less than, because the condition is less than. Okay? So if I run this, and I don't need this print var right now, so let me comment that out. If num1 is less than num2, is that true? Num1 is 10, num2 is 20, so yeah, it is true. So if it's true, it'll run that print statement, which says print less than. Let's see if it works. I surely hope it does. And it does. It says less than. Now, what if I reverse the sign? So now, if num1 is greater than num2, is that true? It's not true. It's actually false. So now, that print less than will not be run. I believe you will just get a blank. See? So you only run this block here when this condition happens to be true. Now, let's say I go back to my original condition because it says less than. And if it's less than, I want it to be less than. But if it's not, I want it to say greater than. Well, with an if statement, I also have something called an else. And with the else, I can say else print greater than. I can't spell greater. Greater than. Boom. So I have an if. If that condition is true, I print less than. If it's not, well, then it's probably greater than, so I say else greater than. Let's see. All right, so I've got less than. And then here, if I switch it, I'll go greater than, but I shouldn't really be switching the condition because we're not going to do that all the time. You know what I should be doing? That is less than because num1 is greater than num2. Let's change the numbers. Let me make num1 greater than, and then when I rerun it, it's greater than. Okay? So you can see, now here's the key. I did my condition right here in the if. If I wanted to, I could do my condition right there with a variable, and I could just test with the variable name. And that's really how you're using a Boolean variable right there. Now, when I do that, and I don't really need the var3 down here anymore. Now I go greater than, and if I change this up here back to 10, then I have less than, okay? So I have an if-else. I have if this is true, var3, then print this. If it's not, print this, okay? That's the beginnings of Boolean variables, why we do them, how we use the relational operators to create conditions to create Boolean variables. And then we can start, now we're getting into some pretty cool stuff as far as logic is concerned. Because now we can look at something and make a decision based on whether it's true or false, depending on these relationships. So all of a sudden now our programming tools are getting a little bit more powerful. We're going to be able to do a few more things than we're used to doing, okay? All right, I am going to use the magic of my triple apostrophe and zotz this out because I want to show you a couple more things. I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it num3. I'm going to make it equal to 40. And similar to the last time, I'm going to say if num3 is greater than 70, print just GT for greater than. Okay? All right, we're in pretty good shape. Then I'm going to say else print less than. All right, we're in pretty good shape. So num3 is 70. So is num3 greater than 70? That's going to be false. So it'll print my else condition, which is less than. Let's see if that's true. And it is. I get less than. I get an LT. Nice. So now what if I take this 40 and I make it an 80? So now, is 80 greater than 70? It is. So I should print GT, greater than. Nice. So things are working well. I've got a variable, and I'm testing it to make decisions to see on what I should print. But is that a complete piece of code? Notice the pregnant pause so you can answer yourself. Is that basically covering all the bases? Is that going to be always true? It's not. Think about it. And I always show people this because it's a good way to introduce elif. What if it's 70? What if it's exactly the number? So now when I run it, I get less than. Because it said, is num3 greater than 70? It's not, because it's equal to it. But it's not greater than. So that ends up being false. So I do the else, and I print LT. But is it really less than? No, because it's equal to. So now I run into a weird situation because while at first it seemed like I had a binary decision to make, either or, it's not true. There's really 3 decisions to be made here. So the way we handle this in a Python context is I test for the first condition greater than. And if it is, I say GT and everybody's happy. But now, what if I want to do another test? Okay? Because now I've gotten rid of one choice. Now I want to look at the other 2. Is it either less than or equal to? So what I do is I do this. I use a keyword called elif. And elif expects another condition after it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say is num3 less than 70. Okay? And if it is, I print LT. Now, what's left? I print equal. Because think about it. If it's greater than, I'm going to print GT and go out of the loop. If it's less than, I'm going to print LT and go out of the loop. Well, that's pretty much the only possibility left if those two haven't been triggered is that they're equal. So without even testing anything, I will automatically, if I get to that point, know that they're equal, and I will just print equal. So let's go back to the beginning and test all of these things. I'm going to go to 40, and it's less than. Look at that. That's true. Oh, the tension is killing me. 80 is greater than. Greater than is correct. Oh, my God, I swear. Now I make it the same. So what's going to happen? Is num3 greater than 70? No, it's not. So I go to elif. Is num3 less than 70? No, it's not. Then I'm going to drop to the else, and it's going to print equal. Please. And it does. Okay? Because that's the only choice left. So I always want to do this little section of code because I want to be able to show people you might be thinking at times that you have a binary situation. Sometimes you do. Sometimes things are either true or false, black or white, 0 or 1. But sometimes you have situations that may seem binary to you and they're not. And when it's not, and you want to look at a couple of different things, you use the elif. It's called an if-then-else structure. And you can look at things down the line as far as that's concerned. Okay? All right, we're cooking with gas. I think we only really have one more thing that I want to tackle to let you guys know about. So I'm going to come here, 1, 2, 3. And as I always say, I'm going to give you this code, and I'm going to put it up on Sakai afterwards. So you are going to be in Fat City. Let's say I have num4. And 70 is a good number. We'll stick with 70. Okay? So I have a variable. I have assigned it the variable. Well, I've assigned it the value 70, so that variable now has 70 in it. Let's say I wanted to see if that number is in a range. Okay? Let's say I want to see if it's greater than 40 but less than 80, which it happens to be in. So I could do something like this. I could say if num4 is greater than 40, then I'll come down here, and then I'll say if num4 is less than 80, print the number is in range, and I'll just do 40-80 so we know what the range is. Okay, so I'll print that. Uh-oh, I started the string with double quotes. I will end it with double quotes. Now, you may have noticed as I've been programming along the way or by looking in your book, when you do a string literal, you can either do 2 quotes or you can do single quotes. To be honest with you, as far as Python is concerned, you should probably go with the single quote because I think the single quote is basically the default as far as strings are concerned. But the reason we do it that way is because what if I wanted to create a string that had a double quote in it? Well, then I would use the singles on the either side. But let's say I wanted to say don't or something like that and have an apostrophe. Well, then I could use as delimiters my double quotes. So that's how we handle that in Python. It's actually pretty neat. It's a good system. I mean, I remember back in the C programming days, we would use special characters to do things like that and do a bunch of workarounds in other languages. And I don't know. And I'm a pretty old dog at this. In my experience, I think Python was the first language I ever came across that basically gave you the choice. And if you used one in the string literal, use the other side. So that's what that story is. I'm going to go with the single ones here. So back to why we're here. Num4 is 70. I want to see if it's in a range, so I basically just nested my conditions. I said, if this is true, okay, go test the second one. Is the second one true? Okay, so now I'm going to print something. So now when I save it and I run it, it says the number is in range because num4, 70, is greater than 40, but it is also less than 80, so both of them trigger, and I print my number. But, and this is a big thing with Python, is that code super readable and super understandable if you look down at it? It's kind of maybe a little bit confusing, a little bit convoluted to go ahead and do things that way. What if we can do something like this and have just one condition, but actually we'll have 2 conditions and we'll chain them together. So I'm going to use the Boolean algebra operator and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a compound condition and use the and to put these two together. And if you know about logic and Boolean algebra and stuff like that, num1 greater than 40, is that true? It is. Num4 less than 80, is that true? It is, because it's 70. So I've got a true and a true. So if you look at your truth tables and think about your Boolean algebra, that's going to be true. The whole thing's going to be true. So if true, print that. Hey, so look at that. Now we're good. Okay? So now what if I did, let's say, 10? No good. So I just got a blank. You know what? Nature abhors a vacuum. So I'm going to say print not in range. It's funny. I say I'm going to use single quotes, and what do? Like an old dinosaur, I default back to the doubles, because usually if you're an old programmer and you used Pascal and Fortran and C, and everybody used double quotes. Even though the single ones make more sense in Python, us old fuddy-duddies will go back and use doubles. All right, so now print not in range. So now if I rerun, that's a little better. Now it tells me it's not in range. And I did alter my structure, so let me go make sure that a good one still runs, and it does. Okay, all right, that's a decent little piece of code there. And it's a little bit more readable because we've used the and to have a compound statement. But and is not the only Boolean algebra operator we can use. We can also use an or. Okay, so if num is greater than 40 or num is greater than 80. So we've sort of got a problem here, because think about it. What if I did 10? What's going to happen? Number is in range. Why? Because it's either or situation. Is it greater than 40? No. But is it less than 80? Yeah, it's less than 80, because it's not tied to this being true anymore. It's an or situation. So if this is 0 or 1, or if this is false, then true, well, then when this is true, it's automatically going to trigger things, okay? It's always going to be true, which if you study symbolic logic, you'll learn is something called a tautology. So that's always going to be true. So that doesn't really help us. So what I usually do in this case is I will find a secret number. And I'll say in this case it's 8. So now I'm going to say if num4 is greater than 40 or num4 is equal to 8, it's like a secret backdoor that we're going to use. Then we'll go true or false. Okay? So the number is, I'm just going to say GT40. So we're telling the truth here. And when I run it, it's going to say not in range, which is true because it's 10. Now, if I gave it 45, well, then it's going to come back true because it is greater than 40. But a way I can cheat, because I have the or in there, is I can give it 8. So is it greater than 40? No, but I have an or. It's greater than 8. So 8 is like my secret backdoor. When I run it, I'll still get true, even though technically it's not true because my or is there. Okay? Now, one last thing I'm going to show you. I'm going to change this back to an and. I'm going to change this back to greater than 80. Number is greater than 80, and I'm just going to say less than, greater than 40, less than 80, like that. Okay? So I'm going to use 50. I'm going to run it, and it's true because it's in that range. But I'm going to change things a little bit. Watch. I'm going to use another Boolean operator, but it's not like and it's not like or in that it goes in between two conditions. It actually latches on to one thing and changes its value. It's called not. Okay? If having it right next to the and becomes confusing for you, you can always group with parentheses, so never worry about that. Grouping with parentheses is never going to hurt you in Python. A lot of other languages is actually required. It's not required in Python, but nothing is stopping us from doing it, so we can do that. So now, num4 equal to 50. Num4 greater than 40? Yes, it is. Is num4 less than 80? It is. So that's true, but that not will make it false. So you're going to have a true and false. So then you're going to print the else, not in range, even though it is. Watch it work. See, not in range. Because what the not does is it turns that one around. And sometimes that comes in handy. So if you get something that's true, it's going to make it false. Or if you get something that's false, it's going to make it true. So remember, when you have these Boolean operators, and you got the skinny on the precedence of the operators and all that stuff when you read the slides. You got and, you got or, and you've got not. And they come in handy. Now, if you want to do something super convoluted, you probably don't want to keep tying things together and then end up with super, super long compound conditionals. But if you want to use one or two, that's why they're there. And it's probably code-wise, it's more readable when it's in that fashion. Okay? All right, so that is Booleans and if-then. I'm going to do a grand finale, see what we get. It's probably not going to be not very interesting. But the grand finales will get better. I'm going to take this code, and I'm going to put it up on Sakai. And you're going to have it to play around with. And if you watch this video, you can tool around with it and make changes and play around with the code, okay? Like I said last night, I should have waited to do the announcements until tonight, because this is the video you're going to see. Tomorrow you'll have the assignments, and then Saturday, hopefully, I'm going to drop that change program video on you. I may do that Sunday morning now. I don't know. I've got, like I told you yesterday, I've got to go do a professional development workshop down at the College in New Jersey on Saturday. And when I'm done, I don't know if I'm going to be tired or I'm going to run into whatever, go get dinner with people, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully I'm going to get home that night and whip it up. Usually that's real easy because it's fun to code and it's literally unscripted. I just say, hey, how you doing? Here's a blank slate. And I just bang out the program. So that ought to be cool and that ought to be fun. And I can get it to you later in the process because technically it's not a resource that you need to do your assignments. And it's not a resource that you're going to need to prepare for the quiz a week from today on Thursday, June the 8th. Okay? So I don't worry about it that much. What I'm worried about is this. I wanted to get you review video 1, first half of the slides, and tonight's. So you have the second half of the slides. Now you have all the resources you need. You have the slides. You have the Zil readings. Video 1, video 2. Tomorrow you're going to see the assignments and you're going to go, oh, that's not so bad. You're going to put something together and you're going to be happy with it. And you're going to get all that stuff submitted next week. And then you're going to start re-regarding the resources so you can do well on the quiz. Quiz will be Thursday and it'll be like, this Python stuff is a piece of cake. And then we move on to Unit 2. We'll move on to Unit 2 next Friday. Okay? You're going to see. It's going to be good. It's going to be easy. It's going to be nice. A couple things that I just wanted to make mention is... One thing, I really do want to drive home the academic integrity stuff, not because I think anybody's going to cheat or anything like this, but here in the computer science department, the New York Times over the weekend did a big article on cheating, and everybody's talking about different techniques to stop cheating. Why is it happening so much? What's going on? Boom, boom, boom. So I just, be aware of that stuff. And I know you're not going to cheat, and I'm not saying you will, and blah, 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 but just remember, you can't share codes. If you collaborate and share ideas, I think that's great. I'm all for collaboration. I don't want people not collaborating. But the code's got to come from your brain. You've got to code it up yourself. Okay? Just so you know, I just want to get out there, get out in front and say it because I don't want to have any issues or hassles down the line. Okay? Just make sure for both quizzes, don't do quizzes together. Quizzes is an open day, all day thing, but don't do them together. And code needs to be written. Okay? In the past, we've had a couple of incidents. One was two people handed in the same code, and it was really super obvious. If you haven't programmed yet, you don't know what weird errors are. So if you've got a program from your buddy and your buddy has a weird error, now you have that weird error. So weird errors usually don't happen 2 times in a row. So when they do, it's a little weird, and we kind of know what happened. Okay? So the best thing, and I've always told people this, you heard I said it in class. It's easier to do well and program properly than it is to cheat. In order to cheat properly, it probably takes more work than it does to just code the damn thing. So avoid that. And you will, I know. I'm just throwing it out there because I kind of have to throw it out there. And remember, one last time, and I'm going to say this a lot, and you're going to get bored with it. You're going to be like, that guy's a broken record. This is too much. But this is a paint job. You're going to, right now we're in the first coat regarding the resources. You're going to read the slides. You're going to read the Zell. You're going to watch the review videos. You're going to tinker a little bit. And this is the learning phase. This is where you're the student. You're the learner. Then halfway through, I'm going to get you the assignments. Then you're going to change. Now you're going to have a job to do. Okay? Now you have a commission. Like you're an old school artist. You've got a commission. You've got a job to do. So now you're a practitioner because now you're going to take that knowledge and all those things you read about and tinkered with. You're going to take it. You're going to do a job. You're going to do something that you've been asked to do and then hand it in. Then the last part, on the last day of the unit, when you do the quiz, you're now the expert because you're going to be reporting out. You're going to be answering questions that are asked of you about what you've gone through. So you've got 3 different stages, 3 different coats of paint, and 3 really different aspects of what you're going to be doing. You're the student and the learner, then you're the practitioner, then at the end you're the expert and you're reporting out. So you get to see things from a bunch of different angles over the course of a unit. That's how I develop these things, okay? Now, if you don't do a damn thing until 2 nights before everything is due, and then you rush everything, well, then my plan just goes all to pot. It doesn't really work very well, right? So that's why I always tell people, listen, engage with the resources. Right now, there's some of you who have some experience with Java or have some experience with C or C++, and you're looking at these videos and you're looking at these assignments and you're like, geezy, crazy, this is easy. This is so cool. I can't believe this is so easy. And within a half hour, you're done. And everything is great, and here you go, and I did great on the quiz, and things are awesome. You know what? Newsflash. Unit 2 isn't really that hard either. Unit 2, we're going to be looking at strings, and we're going to be looking at lists, and we're going to be looking at loops and how we loop through our lists of things and stuff like that. If you've got a little bit of programming experience, it's not hard. So you're like, oh my God, Unit 2 is great too. Oh, this is wonderful. I can't believe it. I'm going to wait until the very last day and do everything. Ah, ha, 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 like a supervillain. You're going to start laughing. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And then Unit 3 is going to happen. Okay? It's like a horror movie. It's going to come and get you. Unit 3 is where the procrastinators get bit in the rear end. And like I said before, all of a sudden, I've got a crib full of babies because everybody waits until the last 2 days, and then when they get a look at the Unit 3 assignment, they're like, oh, I can't do this in 2 days. I hear every excuse under the sun when Unit 3 comes out. Do not be bitten by Unit 3, okay? Do things the right way. The minute a unit starts, take that time. Read the slides. Tinker a little. Regard the Zell. Remember, slides are more important than the Zell. I like you having more than one resource, though, so I want Zell to be there. I want you to read it as backup. Don't you ever use a val. Don't you ever use a val in my presence. But I want Zell to be considered, and I want, like I said, at the end of this course, I want Zell in your bookshelf because of the covers. The coverage in that book is awesome. Okay? I just don't like the way it's sequenced. I digress. All right, so make sure you read things. Then when you get the assignments, you'll be steeped in all of the resources for a couple of days. You'll go like, oh, I know how to do that. Oh, that relates to that. Oh, that relates to that. Then you'll go back to that section in the review video where you go, oh, Lars showed me how to do this here and that. Yeah, that's right. I'll look at it this way and do it that way. Blah, 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 blah. And life will be easy. Okay? Follow the design. Trust me. Follow the design. Because if you do things, and I know some of you are still going to do things in the last minute because you're stubborn. I'm the same way. So some of you are still going to try it, and you're going to be howling. Can I have extra time? Can I do this? Can I? Because the answer is going to be no. No. Okay? Don't like taking assignments late. Sometimes I take them a day late. There's no such thing as a late quiz, and there's no such thing as a makeup. There'll be some extra credit along the way. If you accidentally miss something, maybe we'll be able to help you out. But you got to plan ahead, and you got to have these things ready, okay? All right, good. Then that should be it as far as announcements are concerned. I'm getting you this video tonight, Thursday, which is actually pretty good because the course is only 3 days old, and you're going to have all of your resources that you need. Slides, review videos, Zell readings. And then tomorrow I'm going to get you the assignments. So you'll have a full 6 days to tinker around with them. Plus, the important part, I think, is that you'll have the weekend. So you'll have the weekend to tinker. Believe me, the assignments, no, they're not great shakes. They're going to be easy. You're going to be fine. I don't think you're going to have anything to worry about. I'll put them up tomorrow. I'll do an announcement telling you where they are, so you'll have no worries. And then you can spend the weekend working on things, watching the videos, and then hopefully sometime Saturday or Sunday I'll drop that change video on you. And that's just me whipping up a program, chance for you to see a worked example, and a chance for you to, see what goes on when someone starts with just, tabula rasa. Nothing to do. All right? All right, good. Somebody who shall remain nameless emailed me today to ask me a bunch of questions because they didn't know, do we meet weekly? Do we do this? Do we do that? That's fine. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and ask me. And I'll be more than happy to say, no, we just do this. Yes, we just do this. Don't worry. I want you guys to be comfortable. I want you to worry about Python. Don't want you to worry about administration or missing a quiz or should I be here or should I be there. I want that all put to bed in short order so that you're comfortable, you're stable, you know what's expected of you and when, and then you can worry about Python and programming because at the end of the day, that's what we want to get out of this. Okay? All right. The clock is about to strike 7. So I have to produce this video, get it uploaded, get you guys all happy, and then I got to go watch some basketball. So I'm getting out of here. But I'll be talking to you over the weekend. And I'll talk to you tomorrow because I'll be getting you. Look at that. Holy typo, Batman. Greater. I'll be getting you resources over the weekend, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow via announcement because I'm going to be releasing the homework assignments. All right? Then I'm getting out of here. You be good, and I'll talk to you later. All right?